Did I quit selling on eBay? This is one of the questions in my most recent Google form for question and live. Ask me, it's not live, I lied. My Q&A, ask me anything. And in today's video, I'm going to be answering this. I put out a question on my Instagram and on my YouTube post for a Google form. You guys ask the questions and I'm going to be answering them. So let's start with the very first one. Hey friends, if I am speaking too quickly for you, do feel free to slow me down. You can click up here on your YouTube screen, scroll all the way down to playback speed, and put me on the speed that is most comfortable for you. Now let's get back to it. Do you sell on eBay or did you quit? No, I still sell on eBay. You guys haven't seen me on social media quite as much because I did have to back off of that. I'll link the video up here that goes deep into what really happened because I have backed off of social media a little bit. I am still full force on my eBay and my reselling business, just not so much in the social media part of it. Some stuff happened at home and I just had to scale back on social media. However, I am still selling on eBay, so definitely make sure to subscribe and follow for the videos when they do come out on how I'm doing. I'm actually doing really well. Even though I scaled back, I'm doing about 5, maybe 7 hours a week, and I'm still hitting the same numbers that I was before. So definitely some great tips on that. Next question is, what keeps you motivated this many years in? That's a great question because it is hard to stay motivated, especially right now. So let me know down below what you guys do to stay motivated. I will say it's kind of maybe threefold. One is my family. So the financial income that it brings to our family is a huge help. Now we set up our lifestyle to be able to live off of one source of income. We did this when we were both working in corporate America, me and my partner, before we had children. Well, he had a child. We had a part-time child every other week. He's my stepchild. But when we first got married and before we decided to expand our family, we were both working in corporate America, but we set up our finances in such a way that if something happened or if we needed to, that we were able to live off of one income. And so it's been nice as we've expanded our family and things have brought me home that we were able to still pay our bills off of my partner's income. However, my income helps us save for retirement, helps fund our HSA, right? Like our insurance. And with 3 kids, you know, that stuff skyrockets. It helps pay for vacations and it helps us pay for extracurricular for the kids and just all of like the things that's not the nitty gritty. So it is motivating from a financial standpoint. Absolutely. It's also motivating from a mental stimulation standpoint for me because I am home with 3 neurodiverse kids all the time. It is very exhausting and it is selfless work that oftentimes you do not get thanked for, especially not from the children, right? It's just what is expected for you to do. And I'm glad that I'm able to do it, but it does not stimulate my brain. And being able to resell and being able to conquer reselling and solve problems and teach other people and have a connection that's outside of my children really is what the second thing that keeps me going. So I would say it's probably twofold on things that keep me going. I'd love to know what your guys' why is. Definitely leave those down below. The next one is, what if I only have 4 hours a week to work? How to maximize my productivity for resale, 4 days, 1 hour each day. So I'm going to always recommend batch working. Whatever that is, if there's a way for you to do like 2 days, 2 hours a day, you're probably going to get even more done. Because if you have 1 hour and it takes you 10 minutes to set up, let's say you're doing photos, you're taking 10 minutes to set up your photos and then you can work for, 40 minutes and then you're taking 10 minutes to kind of get everything taken apart and done. You're only getting 40 minutes, where if you do it for 2 hours, you have the 10 minutes in the beginning and the 10 minutes in the end, but then you can get a lot more done in the middle. So I like to marathon, as I like to call it. I like to marathon it and do it in longer sprints. But if you have 1 hour every day, I'm going to say batch work as much as you can. So in that 1 hour, go sourcing for an hour. Maybe 2 times a week. It depends on how you're getting your inventory, but 2 times a week because you need enough items to list, right? So 2 times a week during that hour, I would go sourcing and see how much items I can get. And then I would spend 1 day photographing as many as I can. And I would spend 1 day listing as many as I can. Now it's going to depend on your setup and your how long it takes you to do everything, but definitely batch work and do as much in batches as you can and have things set up ahead as you can. I know not everyone is fortunate to have, a space in their house that everything is already set up, but getting as many things set up ahead is going to maximize your profit. When you're outsourcing, make sure that you're spending your time wisely. If you only have an hour, look at your data, look at your information. Where are you going to get the biggest bang for your buck when you are outsourcing in that hour? Is it going to be tops? Probably not. If you're in women's fashion, for me, tops, probably not. I'm going to go to jackets. I'm probably going to go to shoes, purses, my higher ticket items that if I only have an hour, I can maximize my profit in that time period. 24 hours is not enough for you and your family. You and your family are the number one priority. As a full-time mom, wife, reseller, YouTuber, it's a mouthful. Do you get time to share with your friends and extended family? So this is a two-part question. So I'll answer the first part. Do I get time to share with my friends and extended family? Yes, of course. I am one of 6 children, if you guys didn't know. I have 9 nieces and nephews that all live probably within a 5-mile radius. All sorts of my parents live here. My spouse's family is a little bit further out, but we're all pretty close-knit here. I see my parents once or twice a week. I see aunts and uncles, my siblings, nieces and nephews at least once a month, if not more. So definitely find time for that, as well as friends. A lot of my friends, to be honest, are mom friends. So oftentimes they are on play dates. So the kids are playing and then we're chatting. But as the kids have gotten older, I have made it a point to, hey, Friday nights I started a book club. And I go out, once a month on Friday for a book club, and we talk about the book for about 5 minutes and then other things. It is really hard, and I'm going to say this. In the beginning, when I was building my business, every free second that I had, I was doing my business. And part of that was my kids were little, and so it was much more physically attentive when they are little. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot change themselves. They cannot, all of these things. You have to physically be there with them. Now it's definitely mentally exhausting to the same amount, but I don't have to mentally be there with them. And also when they're little, I'm their food source, right? So I had to be there with them. But now as they're older, dad can, feed them and whatever it is, allowing me to kind of break out. But when they were little, and I was building up my business, it was hours upon it. They would go to bed and I would work. They would be down for a nap and I would work. They would be taking a nap on my back in a carrier and I would be working. So it has definitely been building my business came first. And then once I had it to where I wanted it, then I started scaling back on finding time for myself. Not to say this is the best way. I think it depends on your personality and it depends on what you want out of the business. It has worked great for me because now I have my business pretty self-sufficient to where I can back down and homeschool my youngest child right now and still maintain that 6-figure income because everything is running so smoothly. So I put a lot of time up front where I did not have a lot of that extra time. I sacrificed a lot of time with friends and family and us doing things that I liked, like reading, to be able to build it up to where it is now because I ramped up at such a fast pace. So now where I'm at, the past year, I've probably spent a lot of time on, work hours. These are the hours that I'm working. And if I'm not working, I don't come into my office and work. Now, every once in a while, there's like a question and someone's like, oh, what is this? And I'll answer the question. But it's very hard to not just work all the time. So I have definitely, now that my business is where I want it to be, I have definitely set some work hours around it to where I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. These are my work hours. If I don't get it done in this time, then it can be wait until next month, and setting some realistic expectations off of the hours that I am willing to work. Second part to that question. So friends, we have about 4 more questions. Definitely ask any questions down below too, and I can answer those in the comments. I heard summertime there is a slowdown on reselling. I'm assuming they're maybe not in the States. What are the plans you manage during that time, personal and business? So for me, and I actually, if you guys, I'll link it up here. I don't think I can link it. I'll link it down below. I was on eBay for Business podcast recently, and I was talking with Griff about this. It came up, there is a summer slowdown, and what do I do? And do I see a slowdown, and what do I do? And so the summer slowdown, I have noticed. And I think for me personally, there's two reasons for it. One is I'm in women's fashion. ASP definitely goes down during the summer because shorts costs, people are going to pay a lot less for shorts than they're going to pay for a jacket, right? So ASP goes down, all over gross goes down because of that. People aren't out shopping as much. We did see it not so much of a difference of a dip, I think, during COVID because people weren't out at stores. So there was a lot more online traffic. But typically, yes, there is a summer slowdown. A couple things that you can do, and one thing that I do is international. If you ship international, then the seasonality of what you do doesn't necessarily matter as much unless you are doing Christmas, right? If you something that's a worldwide thing, but the seasonality isn't fluctuate quite as much. The second reason that I see a summer slowdown is I take the summer off to be with my children. And when I say I take the summer off, in years past, I have gotten enough photos ready to send to my VA so that I can still list every single day, and then I ship what comes in, and that's it. I prep ahead and get ahead, but I'm not in doing strategies. I'm not looking at my numbers. I'm not running sales. I'm not sending coupons. I'm all of the things that we know that it takes and that I share with you guys on my social media that it takes to keep my sales up, or when there's a dip, I'm not going in and figuring out what it is. I'm really just listing the items and shipping what sells, and that's it, because I take the summers off to be with my children. That being said, this summer, so stay tuned, we'll see what happens this summer because my son unexpectedly came home to homeschool. I have not been able to get ahead on photos to be able to continue to list all summer. So my intent is I've gotten my process down to where I'm listing about 84 items a week, which takes me about 3-ish hours to photograph, and then I can send them to my VA. I'm intending to continue to photograph every single week. My kids are a little bit older now, so they'll play a little bit better by themselves. I can find 3 hours, I think, during the summer to be able to take photos. That's my intent. We'll see what happens. Hit that subscribe button to make sure and follow me and do see what happens. So I am going to have to still work a little bit more to take the photos, but I'm probably still not going to be in deep into the analytics, sending coupons, doing all the things that keep the business running. So I still do intend to keep a little bit of a dip in the summer, but stay tuned and see what happens. The one other caveat I want to do to this, so earlier in the video I said, my income is kind of like a secondary income. It helps pay for the additional, say for retirement, that kind of thing. If it is your sole income, if you are paying bills off of it, you have to you have to plan for that, not embrace it. You have to plan for that, right? And so during the winter times, you're going to have to make enough extra to hold you over during those lower times. It is a nice thing with being a couple years into this, you have the data. So I can see on average, and we can look at it. You guys want to look at it? We can look at, for my personal business, this is a Sarah Styles. You guys aren't looking at it. I'm looking at it. Here we go. Let me share it with you. This is the Sarah Styles Sales and Trends dashboard. If you guys are new to the channel, it's a Google Sheet that you can purchase, and then you would have access to your data as well. But you can see here, if we go ahead and scroll, that's scrolling up. If we scroll down, now we're looking at this isn't the annual basis. This is kind of like a rolling calendar. So you're not seeing the seasonality. Normally you would see a dip like that. But because we're now in May going into the summer, you're going to see the peak up here. And then you can see it definitely comes down here. Year over year, it's like that. You can see you come over here, and definitely June, July, August, I see a dip, and then it comes back up. So what you would have to do is say, okay, on average, and you have access to all these numbers, but what is this number kind of average out as? And that's what my income is going to be, so that I can plan for this dip up here, October, November. These numbers need to be high enough to overcome these lower numbers so that I can pay my bills, right? And I have lots of videos on how to figure those out and run the numbers to figure out what you need to sell, what your average sale price needs to be, what your sell-through rate needs to be, how many items you need listed. In fact, the Google Sheet actually will have some of that for you as well. you can enter in, if you come on down to the simulator, you can enter in. So let's say you figure out you need $9,000. That needs to be your bare minimum every single month to be able to pay your bills. It'll come over here and say, hey, based off of what you're currently doing, this is how many items you need to sell. Here's what your average sale price needs to be. Here's what your active listings need to be. Here's how many you need to list daily. Here's where you currently are. Here's where you need to be. This is all based off of your numbers and your data. So it's pretty spot on because it's based off of exactly what you're doing, and you get to enter in this number exactly where it is. All right, let's see. The next question is, I love your channel. Could you give advice on how to figure out some item specifics, such as shirt type, what's a blouse, fabric types, what types of theme buyers might be searching, and maybe some good keyword examples other than the obvious ones. All right, so I'm in women's fashion. I can speak a little bit to women's fashion, but let's say you're not in women's fashion, and how do you figure this out? So what I would recommend doing, there's a couple things. Google search is amazing. Google Lens. You can do Google Lens, and you can now actually like type in a little bit stuff. So like you could do a screenshot of a Lululemon shirt that you have photographed and type in Lululemon, and that item would come up. That information is invaluable because it's telling you what the keywords are. It's telling you if it's a blouse. It's telling you if it's a shirt. It's telling you. So if you can find other listings like it, don't necessarily take their listing, right? You have to make it your own. So don't do it word for word, but it's giving you items. It's giving you keywords. It's showing you item specifics. If you're listing in categories that there's other listings like it, look and see what they're doing as you're starting to learn these things and learn, if there's 100 pairs of jeans and everyone is saying it's this, the chances of it being that are pretty good. Do not fill something out if you're not 100% certain, because you can get an item not as described. So if everyone else is doing it, it doesn't mean that you have to do it right. Everyone else could be wrong, but that's a starting off point, right? If everyone else is saying it's a blouse, and then you do a little bit more research and it whatever, and it ends up not being that, then don't put it, because you do not want an item not as described. I will say women's fashion, I've heard, is really hard to get into. I have a background in design, and I used to make clothes. So a fabric type and all of that stuff, I want to say I kind of just know because I've been doing it for so long, but I do kind of just know. And I'm also a woman, so I kind of know there. If you're getting into it, and this is for other things too, if you're getting into it, look, when my virtual assistants, when I train them and start them, there's some amazing resources like on Pinterest that'll have a little graphic that'll say, hey, here's all the different like women's dresses. There's so many different styles, right? And so it has a little silhouette of what it looks like, and you can have that graphic until you start to learn it. Pinterest is a great resource for that. As far as how to find what's trending and stuff, I like social media. There's some really good social media accounts to follow that are sharing. Deanna Online is the first one that pops in my head, and I'll link her stuff down below. But she pops into my head as someone who's constantly like, hey, this is Barbie core is trending right now, and she'll tell you what it is, what it looks like. So following some people on social media, or even just looking through like Cosmo and Glamour and see what stars are wearing. When you go to, I'm talking women's fashion, obviously, but when you go to the mall, look at what like H&M and Forever 21 and a lot of these stores, what kind of stuff do they have? Because that's what people want, especially when you're looking at what's trending and what high fashion is going to vary vastly from what's trending, because high fashion is usually 3 to 5 years ahead of where it would be for the normal market. So like things you're going to see at H&M are not necessarily what's going to be on the runway. What's on the runway, you're probably not going to have large volume sales on, because that's not really popular yet, if that makes sense. The other thing when you're first starting, and this goes for anything, not just in fashion, when you're first starting, think, and even now, always think like the buyer. Look at your item, go to Google, type in what you would do until you find your item. And once you find your item, those are your keywords. Those are the words that other people are looking for to find that item. And once you do it more and more, you'll get more better. You will get better at it. 2 more questions. Well, 3, but one's kind of a goof, which is kind of funny. And I'll share it with you in a minute. I'd sold some pants. The tracking number says it's delivered, but the buyer says they never got it. How should I handle the situation? So a couple of things here. If they are just reaching out to you and said, hey, I never got it, I would say, hey, here's the tracking. It showed that it was delivered. Maybe talk to, if they're in an apartment, talk to your front desk, talk to UPS, talk to your postman, whatever it is. From there, if they can't figure it out, then they may report it as an issue. And honestly, all you have to do here, once they report it as an issue, put in the tracking number, show that it's delivered. And eBay, every single time that has happened for me, eBay has said, hey, show that it's delivered. We're denying this, and then they do whatever they do. But from my standpoint, my funds are released. Nothing happens on my standpoint. I'm not sure, and let me know how if you guys have had a different reaction to this or a different anything different has happened for you. I am top rated seller. My items are top rated seller plus. So that means that I offer free returns. It means that I have 100% fee. I have all of these things that make me a top seller. And oftentimes that does give you more protections. So honestly, I'm not sure if some of those protections are, that's why eBay's like, hey, it showed that it tracked. You snooze, you lose, whatever. And sometimes eBay will pay off both sides. But if they file a report and say, hey, we don't have it, you just put the tracking number in and submit it, and it should be good to go. Let me know. I had this Q&A a couple weeks ago, so let me know what happened. This is probably a little bit too late for this, but for the future, you guys will know. So the next question is it safe to ship pressure canned foods? So here's the thing. I don't ship that. So I, message Anna. If you guys watch my lives, Anna ships everything. And I messaged Anna and I was like, hey, I don't know this. Can you help me so I can answer it for the live? And then I look at the next question and they go, sorry, I thought I was typing in the search and not in your page. So ignore that question. Phew. I don't know. But if anybody does know, leave a comment down below because they are looking for an answer to that. I do not know the answer to that. Their question for me, though, is I would love to see how you record your eBay numbers, like what pages you get each point of data from, and then put it into your personal spreadsheet, or if you have an automated such that it goes into your spreadsheet correctly. I feel like I spend a lot more time than I should, and there must be a better way. Thanks again, and sorry. So I don't spend any time on it because I pay my virtual assistants to do it, but I do have a process, so I will show it to you. Now, this is twofold. One, the process I'm going to show you is the process for the Sarah Style Sales and Trends dashboard. I have an additional financial spreadsheet that I use that I don't sell it, so I won't show it to you because you don't, it's a lot. But it is what I used for my profit and loss statement. It is what I use for tax purposes. That one is very robust. That one, I download the reports, lots of VLOOKUPs, things do this, and my partner actually does most of it. But I will walk you through the Sales and Trends dashboard. The first thing that I do, so if you guys, this is a Sales and Trends dashboard, right? So we have the import file. The import file is where you track and manage your data. This is what it looks like. You have an additional file, working file, because if you go in here and you start changing things, it can mess up the dashboard. So it's best practice to have a working file, but it looks like this. I'll actually bring it up. So here it is. It just works a little slow when okay, so it looks like this. That's my master. I have a lot of other tabs too because my virtual assistants use this this is how we communicate, but this is what it looks like. So as my virtual assistants are listing, they are manually typing in all of the information. They're listing an item and they're saying, hey, I listed it on this date. Here's the title, here's the brand, here's the size, here's the SKU number, all of the information that you would get from a listing as you list it, they are going in and doing manually as the item is listed. Honestly, for listing, because I used to do this myself, as you are listing is what I have found to be the most efficient time to do this. Pulling reports, when you first are setting this up, pulling a bunch of reports is fine. But as you're going through and doing it, no report is set up with all of the information in the way that you need it. So I ended up spending a lot more time manipulating and moving and pulling reports than just typing it in as it was being listed. Now, the same-ish goes for when items sell. So when items sell, twice a week, my virtual assistant, and like I said, I did this before, and this is what I found to be the most efficient. Instead of going in every day, batch work, friends, right? So I pull a report twice a week. Depending on your volume and how often you want to look, it would depend too. I like to look at my stuff twice a week. So I pull a report, and if you go to eBay, Poshmark, you just pull the reports. I only sell in 2 places, but Poshmark, you just pull 2 reports. Poshmark is actually easier because I don't sell a large volume on Poshmark. It's easier just to go in one by one and do it because it's usually over the course of a couple of days. It's usually like 5-ish items. So it is actually quicker that way. But I'm in my seller hub on eBay. I'm on my orders. And then I'm not going to scroll down because I don't want to show you guys customer data. So you're just going to see the top. But if you scroll over, you can click download report. I'm not going to go through this whole process because like I said, I don't want to show you customer data. But it will download a report and then I put it into the spreadsheet. I did blend out, get rid of customer data in this. So some of these are blank, but they will show in what you have. And I've also minimized it because it is like a really massive report. But what you need here is as you scroll down, this is my SKU number. So this is how I connect it to my master file. I have a SKU number. This is so helpful, not only when you are listing things, not only when you are shipping things, but when you are reporting things. Because right here, look, I have the same item, but only the size is different. But the SKU number is all unique. So it significantly reduces time trying to find items when you have a SKU number. So my SKU number is in here. My SKU number is more than those 4 numbers that you found because this whole SKU goes to my financial workbook. And I'll tell you what it is. So this is the first part is a unique SKU that's associated with my cost of goods that I use to connect to my financial spreadsheet workbook. And then it is the bin that it's in, and then it's the number that it is, and then it's a virtual assistant that listed it. So then if I'm like, hey, I can't find this or I have a question about it, I know which of my virtual assistants listed it so that I can go to them and ask the question. And then you have information, how much it cost. This is all of the stuff in the report. The 2 things that this report does not have, which is why it's kind of a hassle for pulling a report, is it does not have shipping costs and it does not have fees. It would make sense, eBay, if you're listening, it would make sense if you had shipping fees and how much items sold for, the fees and shipping all in one report. That would help us out a lot, but it does not. So what I do here is if you're in manage your report or manage your orders, again, all orders. I'm not going to actually click on it because I don't want to show you guys customer data, but if you come on down to shipping labels, I just copy and paste the shipping labels and I put them into another tab and put them in here. And then I do a VLOOKUP in the report that says, hey, look at this order number, find it in the shipping spreadsheet, and then tell me what that cost or what the shipping cost was for that order number. So this is going to work 99% of the time. If you are shipping multiple things together, it's going to have one order number. So then you'll have to split out the cost between those. If you're shipping, let's say they bundled items together, you'll have to split those out. As for fees, you could do this for fees as well. I do this for fees. It's very accurate for fees in my financial spreadsheet, but for this, I just really want to know high level what my fees were, not necessarily at a micro level. So honestly, what I do is I just go in and say, hey, my fees for the past month on eBay, and I can show you where that is. Let me get out of this. So I can show you on eBay where it is, just in case I accidentally bring up customer data. But I go into eBay and I say, hey, for the last month, this is where what my fees were. And then I just allocate, hey, they were 25%. I just allocate those across to all of the sales for the month. This is not micro. So for every single item, it's, I'm just saying, hey, this is it for the month. Apply it to all of the items. For a sales and trends, how am I doing business health standpoint, what my dashboard works for, completely fine. For financial taxes, profit and loss, I do go in and pull the report for the fees and then do line by line there and do it together. So this is up to you. I find for my purposes, just allocating one fee to everything is fine. So now I'm in eBay. How do you find your fees? I have a video, I'll link it up here, that goes through how to find your fees and what do they mean. But on performance, summary, if you scroll all the way down, you have your eBay fees. So my eBay fees for the time period that I'm looking at are 26%. So then all I do is go into my import and to my master, and And if you have any formulas in here, yeah, you can see I have a formula in here that says, hey, look at my eBay fees. If it's between this time period, my eBay fees are this. So I have I hope this all makes sense. I have an eBay fees tab in here that says, hey, from 9/15/2019 to 10/15 for that month, my percentage in fees were 18%. You guys can see my fees have like skyrocketed since I started doing more promoted listings. That's a whole nother video. I'll link a video up here on it. But you can see here I have a formula that says, hey, if it sold between here, here's what the fee is, and then it allocates it out. You can see, if you guys want to do the same thing, you can see up here is the actual formula that I have written that looks at the fees on the other side. That I do there. The one thing I want to say here is if you are bringing in formulas, completely fine. This is why you have a working file. If you are bringing in formulas from the import file, if you're doing formulas in anything, you do have to copy and then do a paste special into the dashboard, because once you take it out of the import file and you put it in the dashboard, it doesn't have anything to reference and you're going to get errors. So doing formulas in there, mess around. That's why we have a working file, because as you're figuring it out, you're not going to break the dashboard. But then as you put it into the dashboard, do make sure to make it a paste values so that they come up as values and not as an error. This was so much fun, guys. Thanks for asking all these great questions.